Hey y'all, we're back. It's Alexis,
And Allie.
and I have a very fun fact about some green jobs today. Did you know that the microwave was actually invented on accident?
What?
Yeah, there was a scientist named Percy Spencer. He worked with radar technology, and he was working near this radar machine that I really don't know how to pronounce or what it does. But he had a chocolate bar in his pocket, and it melted while he was working. And then he experimented with popcorn kernels, other types of foods. So the first bag of popcorn or first popcorn made was in like 1946, and it was all by accident.
I don't know how I would feel if I accidentally invented something like that, especially something that we've used up until now.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they were like huge, definitely like not household size like we have today. Like, you could fit it just in your
Yeah.
kitchen. It was like huge.
Why is everything that starts out like big? Because we talked about the computer that one
Yeah.
time that basically had to be a room for itself.
Yeah,
What is going on with that?
I have no idea, but hey y'all, we're back today and we're going to talk about some careers in science. You can do some amazing things even on accident, such as Percy Spencer did. And if you are listening, please go watch our YouTube video if you want to hear our fun fact about a scientific discovery. So, we just wanted to touch on some jobs that you can have in STEM in general, or in science or environmental and natural resources, and what the future is going to look like in a green economy. So there's a lot going to unpack here. There are, I would dare to say, I mean, there's thousands and thousands upon thousands of types of jobs you can have in science, whether that's environmentally focused or not. Whenever you take the focus off of environmental, it's crazy how much there can be. I mean, you can go into research for any field. You can go into medicine. You can go into engineering. You can go into the environmental side, chemistry, geology, technology, physics, mathematics. There are endless possibilities. And with all these separate kind of subjects, you could do that. You could cross that into different fields. You could combine them and mix them together. You mix and match, make it your own thing. It's really amazing how much you can do in the science world.
It really is. And I think that's why I was so interested in learning about this, because I was like, since we've had so many new areas that you can be a major in science, like when did science first be like super prominent in society? And when I was looking it up, it was like we don't really have a great idea of what the first scientist or the first engineer was, or just anything. They're kind of like a lot of that history got lost, or wasn't really recorded the way that we record history today. But they did talk about, I don't know if you found the Thales of Miletus or Miletus. That was in 624 BCE to 554 BCE. But apparently he wasn't really talked about much, or he didn't have a lot of hardcore written dedication to him, because he didn't have a lot of things that would have, I guess, translated over to modern history and how we record previous events. But he did contribute a lot to science and math. And then there's also, we have mentioned this person before, I believe, in an episode talking about physicists and whatnot. But I'll put the name up on the screen again, because I, again, do not want to butcher the name. But that he was also thought to be the first scientist, and then someone else was also thought to be first scientist. So there's a ton of important figures that started out their career in science that weren't necessarily recorded until recently. So I don't know if that would have also influenced how many different areas you could have been in, if they hadn't contributed something. What I was kind of interested of is there were different fathers of whatnot, or different first people. A lot of these names you might recognize, some of them you might not. William Gilbert, Isaac Newton, Christian Huygens, Robert Hooke. And then there was one more, but I don't remember the name because it was something that I didn't write down. I just saw it. But there was just a bunch of different things that kind of started out writing the pathway for what we know scientists to be today.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because who is the first, And I
Yeah.
mean, there are people that have similar ideas. I learned in a class recently, I cannot remember their names to save my life right now, but there were people at the time of Charles Darwin that were having the same ideas, and they ended up reaching that same idea almost at the same time. But Darwin is always accredited with the theory of evolution. So it's always really difficult. Who should we give credit to? Who was here first? First dibs. You get the rights to, be the father of this or whatever. And honestly, it's with some disciplinaries or disciplines, excuse me, of science, like environmental science. The modern environmental movement didn't really happen until the last 50, 60 years. It didn't really happen until the 60s, 70s when people really started talking about it and taking it seriously as a science and studying it academically and as it is now, and to where we're able to study it in school and get this degree. It was never like that. So I'm wondering if, what has the journey been like for other disciplines of science in that regard? What has been, I'm sure biology and chemistry probably were a foundation, at least how we know it now. That's kind of a foundation for a lot of different sciences. So I'm wondering if they kind of got their way first. And then where did geology come in the line? Where did paleontology come in? I don't know. And that would be really interesting to see, where did these things come from, and what time frame are we looking at? What came first to lead to this? And honestly, with environmental science being so new and so many of these disciplines being so new, or just at least that we know of, I wonder what else can come in the future.
I know. Because like once we were talking about like, did you know that there's our fun fact, if you're listening, definitely go to our YouTube to see our fun fact. But like the fun fact you brought up,
Mhm.
that is one of the examples that I'm like, okay, so how would we have known who to give that credit to? Or like, so how can we build off of that now? Or like, how have we built off of it since that specific appliance is pretty common? But like, it really does open your eyes to how like far back, and also kind of how warped the science field can get, and like how we just aren't exactly sure. Because I mean, I feel like a lot of people think of things in their backyard, and then like somebody else gets the name for it just because they were the first ones to like publicly announce it or something. Like there was just an extra step that the original person didn't think of. So and I that kind of leads me into like, okay, so when teachers are going over subjects like this, how were they getting where are they getting their information of like who was the first one? Who should I be teaching these kids? Like, was the reason why this is invented, or like the first person that brought this up? Like, it makes me think of like who out there has the actual record, or like has known about this. Even when I was talking about the first scientist myself, like what I found, how do I know that was the first one? Like, I don't want to spread misinformation, but that's just the stuff that's recorded on history websites, and I don't know who's telling the truth. Which, going off of like the education, that was one of the main things I saw when like talking about like planning a career in the STEM field. Of like, what's really important about it is that it has to start at a young age, and especially with like the accessibility of teachers and whatnot. So there was a study done by professors at Cambridge University that were talking about how early education is a vital like viewpoint when teaching science. And I thought that was kind of interesting because it is true. Like whenever I go back to like my early science classes, I'm like, you're the reason why I love what I love now.
Absolutely. And that is one of the pillars of why I'm in science right now, is because me personally, my sixth grade earth science teacher, shout out to you, she really helped to kind of nurture that love for science in me that I may not have realized at the time, but that was so crucial in my understanding. And I still carry that information with me, 10, 12 years later, however long ago. So yeah, educators are very, very important in this type of field. And educate you can do education any of these fields that I listed earlier. You can educate physics, chemistry, biology, environmental science, medicine. I mean, we hear these as college majors all the time, and even some as high school classes. I know me and Allie were talking about before we started recording, we were talking about in our high school, biology and chemistry, and if AP versions were offered. So that is really, really crucial. That's a crucial career in science, is being an educator of it, because without the education, it's almost like I'm tangling this thread really hard right now, because it's like, okay, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because
Yep.
we have the science, people are teaching the science. Okay, well, who taught my science teacher? Or I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but where does my doctor go? Does my doctor go to the doctor? Does my dentist go to the dentist? Does my scientist learn from another scientist? Like, what? It could really easy get just so confusing, but education is highly, highly important in this field.
It is. And that kind of leads me to my next point of like the most recent news of like what's going on and like why this specific topic is really important to address, and like how important it is in the careers, especially in our career. But in recent news, as of literally, I either believe, yeah, it was yesterday, so March 20th, 2025, because we are now on March 21st, Trump signed an EO aiming to close the DOE, which, if you're not aware of how like the political side plays a part in it, he can't necessarily like dismantle it with just an EO. That has to come from an act of Congress. But it does show that there's a lot of aspects of education that, from if this all goes through and if all these steps get to where he wants them to get, it could potentially mean that we have less of these educators. And that's really a scary thought, just because like we already have a very short staffed curriculum, in my opinion. Like, a lot of schools don't have the funding to have the teachers that they need. And I was honestly a subject to that of in my high school. Like, we didn't really have a lot of teachers for certain subjects, which meant that if you could get in with that teacher, then that was the only way you'd get that class. And if you couldn't, then sucks. You just have to find something else. And a lot of times that can defer someone who's really passionate about something but don't know much about it, that are trying to just be introduced to even just the subject in general, that's like crucial for future scientists or like future environmentalists. As Alexis was mentioning, we kind of talked about this briefly before the episode, and I myself like wasn't really thinking about in the environmental field in high school, and not even really until my halfway through college, which is crazy to think about how was there and now I'm here. But it it was kind of eye-opening to see that if I could go back in time and tell my younger self like where I was going to be today, I would have gone a completely different route, or I would have tried harder to get into those classes, because that would have helped like strengthen the knowledge I have, or would have. And that just meant that there would have needed to be more teachers, because I do remember not really having the opportunity, even if I wanted to get into those classes. So it just like, it kind of scares me to think about what's potentially in the works, because this could also mean there's less funding to schools. So they have less programs, especially for disabilities, which, going off of that, specialized services. So most of those might be kind of revoked, or just like kind of notched down a little bit. Also federal aid for all of our students currently. We see you, we hear you, keep doing what you're doing, even if like the financials are scary. Like you're gonna need it. And then also they would take away like federal data to track accessibility gaps, so we wouldn't really be able to see a lot of like the supporting data to show how different like demographics play a part in the educational field. But also, like I was mentioning earlier, lots and lots of teachers would lose jobs. So it just is not exactly the happiest of news, but I had to mention it, because considering it literally happened yesterday, and I think I shed a few tears when I saw that news.
Yeah, it's very disheartening, and even though I hope it's not going to go through, and it's very likely that it will get shot down, and I hope that idea does get shot down, because the thought of dismantling education in this country is very scary. And I mean, I've said it in previous episodes, I say it all the time: knowledge is power and education is
Absolutely.
power. And to think that somebody wants to take that away from me just lights this fire under me. Like, I want to know everything now. Like you can't stop me. Like I know what I know, and be confident in your knowledge, especially as a female in a science field. Be confident. That is one of the biggest things you can do to help yourself is know what you know what you know, and you know that you know it and that it is correct. Don't let somebody question you. Don't let somebody put you down or make you feel stupid, because it has happened to me personally in class, in the field, so just anywhere. It's happened to me, people giving me a look or oh whatever. I may walk in there and be the dumbest blonde looking person in the world, but honey, I'm gonna get up there and I'm gonna ace every test. I'm going to present with confidence and my head held high, and that's because I know what I'm talking about. So don't let people question you or question your confidence or question your abilities, because that can ultimately unfortunately is something that you have to do even on your worst days where you are anxious, if you're going through depression, if you're struggling just in your personal life. You just have to, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just say, all right, here I go. Here I go. And that can be really difficult to do sometimes, especially when people are questioning you. It's like, wait, do I know that? Is that right? It's right, baby. It's right. Don't just remember, I'm in your ear right here. It's okay. You're correct. Don't let people question you on that. So yeah, and just going back to the first scientist thing, I had this thought when we were talking about it. Just in history, white men have often just been given the platform and just had historically more rights and more of a spotlight. So I'm wondering if there have been other people that we just don't know about because it literally was not recorded anywhere, because nobody thought that what that person was doing was important because maybe of their race or their gender or their sexual identity or orientation, which is really sad to think about. But it's also like, oh, there could have been. It's fun to imagine, like, there could have been, all these discoveries could have been made a long time ago and we have no idea. But as far as the future goes, as we were kind of talking about some current news, I was kind of expecting during my research of this. I don't know if my sources are the most reliable, just because if you go to some websites, it might say, well, especially with a month ago in the United States, many National Park Service employees were fired, terminated, or let go, whether that was temporary or permanent. Which it's very scary to be in this field at this time. But I was thinking, I would see a decline in these jobs because of stuff like that and things like that. But I found on a website, I can't remember. I don't think I wrote it down here. Sorry, y'all. Okay, it was the World Economic Forum, but it was saying that green jobs are projected to make up 14% of total U.S. jobs by 2030, which is a lot.
I saw that too.
Yeah, and a green job, if you don't know what I mean by that, it's a job that contributes to protecting and restoring the environment. And this website was saying that this is a fast-growing type of job, and I was surprised in the best way, because I wasn't ready to see that, but we are needed now more than ever in this climate crisis. And we need every single type of, environmentalists out there. We need our hydrologists, we need our geologists, our paleontologists, ecologists, biologists, we need our consultants, That's another side of this that I know I'm yapping a lot. I'm sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
But consulting is a whole nother side of it. And those jobs that I have been listing, I like to call them like fluffy jobs or something like that. Because, you hear marine biologist and you're like, wow, that sounds amazing. I would love to do that. And of course, obviously, that sounds awesome. But there's also jobs in wastewater, in waste management, in consulting, in being a technician, engineering. And all of that sounds a bit more boring, quote, boring. It's not, there's a job for everyone out there, and you can find something interesting in every single spot in environmentalism. But working in labs too, being a lab rat, that is also a huge part of this. And even if you don't have a fluffy job, as I like to call it, then you're doing something really, really important and you are needed desperately.
I love everything you've said since you started talking, by the way. Like I was sitting here in my brain and I was thinking, that's my host. Like that. This is, if you don't listen to anybody, listen to this one right here because that's all so beautifully spoken. And it just shows that, like, even if you aren't given the necessarily like public credit that you are deserved, that does not mean that your job isn't needed, like Alexis was saying, and it doesn't mean that it's going to go unnoticed by literally anyone because, like we're talking about, I wonder who did this, I wonder who did that. Like, there's going to be someone in future generations that wonders the same thing and might find your name somewhere. So it's just like anything that you can find that you can use your brilliant brain to contribute to, do it. Because in all, like the question that I feel like is the most important in this specific subject of careers in STEM is, why is it important? And I'll tell you why it's important. Addressing challenges like the climate crisis, diseases in medicine, and developing solutions, because like STEM isn't just science. It's science, technology, and engineering, mathematics. Like, it's literally everything that engulfs like what I would like to say adaptive learning. It's very innovative. It's very like brain, hands, logic, emotion, everything is involved. It's not just one side of your brain. It's like it's like both hemispheres of your brain are activated. But it's also what we use to develop like solutions to complex situations, regardless. Like, it's a very important subject for not only like one aspect, it's important for like all realms of life, just because you're able to, like I said, use those hemispheres and just like really just get into it, girl, like get into it. And I think that's honestly why I love science so much. Like, I was gonna be a music person and I still love music and it's a big part of me, but if I had to talk about something for hours and how passionate I am, it's gonna be this subject, just because we need more people and we need just like a group of like humanists who just want better lives for future people, because I think that's what scientists are here for, is to provide that better life for future generations. It's kind of like thinking about Divergent and how all the factions play their own part in society, but then you have the Divergents who engulf all of those things, and I feel like that's what humanity is engulfing every side of you, and I just think that's what STEM is. So that was kind of one of my main things. And I also saw the thing about the economic forum, because they were predicting this specific career to be in main demand by 2030, because I was also a little bit worried about my future in the career. And I think I'm glad that we picked this topic, because learning that really set me in a sense of calm, a sense of reassurance.
Me too, especially as someone who is just on the cusp of finishing that degree. I'm like, okay, what world am I about to walk into? Am I about to just walk into the fire, or what? Like, what should I be preparing for? And speaking of that, I wanted to get a little bit real about salaries real quick, just while we're on careers. In STEM, it can vary widely. I mean, it can be 50K, it can be 200K. I mean, if you're going to go into medicine, obviously we know our doctors are making lots of money, six figures. We need you. But then there's also, if you're starting an entry level position as a technician or as a lab rat, you may not be making those six figures, just keeping it real with you. Don't worry, I'm probably going to be there really soon.
Me too.
And I wanted to share also something that I found that was interesting. This was on the U.S. Bureau of Labor website.
Okay.
They said that the 10 fastest growing science occupations in 2024 are epidemiologists, medicine scientists, food scientists, biochemists / biophysicists. They were in the same category. Chemists, animal scientists, environmental scientists, microbiologists, astronomers, and soil and plant scientists. And I thought all of those were very interesting, and the fact that a lot of those are environmentally related, and even if it's not directly related, something like a food scientist, dealing with crops, and you're kind of dealing with the environment / public health, and a lot of environmental work does have to do with public health as well. There are so many positions that, you're looking at these issues in a company, or, okay, what is this output of this product going to produce environmentally? What harm is this going to do? So that way I can prevent it, because it causes these public health problems. So you can easily find yourself down that rabbit hole in this career too.
Exactly. And that's kind of a great point to talk about, because that's a big factor in like how people kind of pick the career that they want is based on how much money they're going to have in the future. Because I know if your grandma told you to get a job that's going to get you the money, that's what makes life go round. Like that's, you're going to have to go off of that. And I say that with this specific example because my grandmother did say that. And I was like, Grandma, but I love the planet. So I don't know what else you want me to do. But when I was looking at like entry level positions, it was so different between a conservationist and like even a wildlife biologist. Because that's kind of where I was kind of trying to pick and choose, like, what do I want to do? Like, where do I fit in? And a lot of the like examples were so vastly different, even like a 50K difference, which is why I want to go to grad school because that was another
Oh yeah.
50K.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like, it just changes. And that's why we say just keep your head in the game, keep going until you can survive because we understand that that's really what it is. You have to be comfortable. And if you're not comfortable, then how are you going to feel passionate about it? How are you going to be able to continue? So I'd rather you go the long way and be able to actually go to the grocery store and get yourself some food and not have to worry about like using Lunchables or like microwavable mac and cheese, than to go the short route and try to just hammer it out and lose a bunch of money and not be able to like, do those things or have a good diet and all these things to keep you healthy in the long run because then, we end up losing a lot more people. Which kind of like led me to really dive into how can we use our early education and even just primary and secondary to really influence these kids to continue or to like know that the job might not have that extra zero, but it's still important. And I found there's a lot of like programs that taught like science and science related fields that could maybe like help keep hope up in kids that are kind of like exploring the territory. Science Bits was one. Khan Academy, which a lot of us know. Science Buddies, which is really cute. National Geographic has their own program, and then PhET, PHET, which all just focus on interactive science learning. So if you aren't in the subject but like want to learn more about it or even like gain some knowledge to maybe you can contribute to a person that like is in the field and maybe like jump on a project of some sort for your own resume, those are some like programs. And that's like a completely off topic from the career like money side of it, but it's just to show that there are resources that people can use for other areas and other subjects that are still like applicable and also like help kind of retain people. Because in our women in STEM episode, we talked about how like even with women, we trickle out throughout the little pipeline. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's a great little metaphor we talked about. But that can be like relatable for this too, of like little kids want to do this and then they get older and like, actually, that salary is just too low for me. I've got to, go be an engineer or not an engineer, but like even work in construction or just like any other area. So before you give up, there are ways that you can amp up your education and the way that you can get that extra zero and be comfortable in this field.
Absolutely. And science is always growing, always changing as an academic subject as well as a career. As more discoveries are made, as more theories are made, as more laws are discovered, as more elements, species, anything you can think of is discovered, the field is constantly changing. There may be more jobs that open up that we have no idea, I mean, the sky is the limit in science, really. And a lot of science does involve critical thinking, and no matter what field you're in, kind of what you're going back to, listing the resources that anybody can kind of go to, you can use science in any other field as well. It's a lot of critical thinking and problem solving. And anyone can be a scientist, anyone, even if you don't, have the BS accolade hanging behind you, it's okay. You can be a scientist too, even if you're doing home experiments that you looked up that are, meant for elementary schoolers in your kitchen. That's okay. That's fun too. If you're buying a science kit, from the store, making slime, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, you're kind of a little bit of a chemist or something. I don't know, but anyone can do this. And another recommendation I had was the Amoeba Sisters on YouTube if you wanted to
Yes.
learn some more about science. And that's a lot of the videos that I've seen by them, at least, are about biology. So if you wanted to know more about biology, then, if you wanted to know some more basics of biology, go knock yourself out. I mean, I've watched those from in school from middle school up until college. I mean, there's been a college class where that has been a video that we've watched. So it's good for anybody who just wants any more information. So yeah, just be a scientist if you want.
Yeah. And going off of that, like, I'm going to speak to literally like people in this field right now. So if you aren't in this field, you can skip over this part, but I want to speak right to those people in this field. Yes, we know that your job is being attacked. Yes, we know that your future is at stake, and we still will need you, even though it's going to be harder to find those jobs and whatnot, especially because the EPA is about to have to terminate about 1,000 of their employees, and so that's like roughly 75% of the research staff. Because I myself wanted to be a researcher, but I wanted to speak to you in a perspective of like a resource that you still have at your fingertips to be able to help you through it. There's some job boards for conservation jobs, and these I think I added a couple for even medical field, but the ones that we know very well and dear are Texas A&M. Is a hot spot for finding jobs. There's also one for the UGA Warnell website that they have job postings not only for UGA but also just anywhere else will post their jobs there. Conservation job, literally a job board. Or conservation job boards, should I say. And then science careers, one called Job RXIV. That was interesting. That was for medical. Arc.dev, which is for data scientists. And then we have Indeed and LinkedIn, which will have some jobs that are listed. But those are just a couple that I wanted to add on as my last bit for the episode of like, yes, we have talked about how important it is to stay in here and to even pertain in science when it's not your field, but also just to keep going. And that might feel like it's not possible with what's been going on politically, but there are different places that you can still go and find pertainable jobs for you, and hopefully to keep you in this fight for the long run. And that way you can build up from there, because a lot of these jobs may have a low salary or maybe hourly pay still, but you can definitely move up and use this as resume builders are just the best. Any of those fluff jobs, like you said, anything to add more experience to your profile will help you gain the money that you need later on. But yeah, that was like the last little bit that I really wanted to add, because I started getting a little sad of like, what am I gonna do? What are we gonna do? How is there an optimistic part of this? But we are painfully optimistic here.
We are, and if you don't like it, get out. I'm just kidding. Just join us at the table. There's plenty of room.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to add one more thing, that volunteer work is also very,
Yes.
very, very essential. I was for a little bit up at Red Top Mountain State Park, and half of it's amazing what people are willing to do with their free time. A lot of it is older people who are already retired and they have the free time to come out in nature and enjoy themselves and enjoy the park and keep it enjoyable for other people as well. So volunteer work, although it is not attached to those dollars that we need, if you have the time, or if you're in another field and you want to do something on the weekends, go find volunteer work. I mean, I'm telling you, volunteers are the backbone of so many places, at museums, at parks, education centers. It is so vital to keeping these things going. So I'll leave you with that. Go do some research. Go watch an Amoeba Sisters video. Go do your own research. Have fun. If you do a little experiment at home, let us know. We would love to see it and hear about it and maybe try it ourselves. But in the meantime, just keep pulling on that green thread.
Yep.